You know, like I said, it happens, and hopefully some kids can learn from it, but just don't get caught.
I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk. This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
You a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
Do you have a gallon of milk I can also take home?
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Crunch. Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Emergency Pod! The Oklahoma City Thunder have signed Vasilij Micic to a 3-year deal. First reported by ESPN. 3 years, $23.5 million to join the Thunder. The two-time EuroLeague champion and an MVP, Micic brings a significant skill set and IQ to OKC. Which is what Woj typed into a tweet recently. With me to break down Micic and what it means for the Thunder, I've got my guy, Michele Bear. Michele, what's up?
Well, it's what a day. I mean, we expected like a boring free agency as late as yesterday evening for me, and it was kind of okay for the first, I would say, 18 hours, and then this bomb.
Yeah, it's big. I had kind of thought.
Can you hear the bells, by the way?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Like it's celebrating this. No, sorry.
It's Micic Day. I think
it's
a lot of us thought when they took Kason that maybe it meant they weren't going to get Micic, and I think obviously the Thunder think otherwise with the thought of having a lot of ball handlers and decision makers. It's something that we've talked about on the show a lot throughout the last couple years, is that I just don't think that you can have enough ball handlers and decision makers. And that's, you bring in both those guys. And I think that they're going to help solidify what the Thunder do. And that's kind of the cool thing you see across the league. Not only are teams bringing in guys to just like, please, Fred VanVleet, change the culture of the Rockets. Please, somebody do something with this team or that team. Bruce Brown, we're gonna require you to really help us get our defense to a better place. Micic is just, hey, come to the team, fit in. He's gonna be in the same vein as like Mike Muscala or Kenrich Williams on this team as a veteran. That's going to be his job, is to come in as a guard off the bench. I have no doubt in my mind that his role was like very clearly explained to him. Michele is frozen.
Yeah,
There he is.
I don't know.
I think his role had to have been clearly defined. I am shocked that he agreed to take on this role and come to this team and to participate with this team. It is a massive win for the Thunder to get a free agent like him to come over. I mean, you can ask Sixers fans. They thought for years, okay, Micic is going to come over. He can help us. He can do all these things. And like, no. And we know as Thunder fans and people that have followed the Thunder that like it's been the same thing for the past couple of years. And the fact that they actually got him to come over, the fact that he wants to play for this team, It speaks to the culture of the team. It speaks to the talent level. It speaks to his respect for guys like Shea and Giddy and J-Dub and Chet. The lineup combinations are going to be so much fun because we've talked about this. You can never have enough shooting and playmaking on the roster. And the pressure's not going to be really on him to help deliver them to anything except for, hey, they've brought in 3 players that I think can accentuate what this team does well. They've brought in 3 guys that I think can hit open threes. They've brought in 3 guys that I think can help. And so Bertans is obviously to a lesser extent Micic and Kason, but I think, boy, you should be very excited if you're a Thunder fan for many, many reasons.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will also be so interested to see how Micic tries to be more than a bench player for OKC. I'm sure that he will say, okay, I respect it. I will come off the bench, but then wait for it. Because Micic is a guy that led teams to EuroLeagues. He played for Serbia in the national team, and he was the leader of that team. It's not very easy to do together with Jokic, of course. This can be a play where Micic stays with OKC, tries, and then maybe as early as the deadline, it says, okay, let's go with plan B, which is move me somewhere else. Or this can be something that lasts for a long time. I mean, I think that the money were definitely something that OKC could offer differently from many other teams.
Yeah, it's about in the range that we thought, like that $7 million range. And you look at guards and like what they're getting paid across the league. I think you ask like every GM in the league, would you rather take a shot at Micic or sign Dennis Schroeder? And
well, apparently someone wants to do the latter.
So, someone did, and they signed him for about double what Micic commanded. Which is, I mean, it's a great value for the Thunder. I couldn't help but think of the Al Horford deal. And just what a crazy deal that was for the Thunder. So I think it was first reported by Mark Stein. I don't remember if that's accurate or not. But Philly traded Al Horford, a 2025 first-round pick that is looking more valuable by the second with the turmoil that's happening in Philly. They got the rights to Teo, which didn't work out, and Micic. And that was in exchange for Danny Green, Terrence Ferguson, and Vincent Poirier. Just an insane
wow.
Just an insane trade to get Micic and a 2025 first round pick, essentially just to take on Horford's deal, is pretty outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah, and OKC got also back something from Boston, so it was actually an incredible trade. And yeah, Micic is the shooting part is what is very interesting. I mean, Micic was always a pure shooter in Europe. He's over 85% from the line for his career, 37% for his career, and on high volume. I mean, in the Turkish league, where that is not the same as the EuroLeague, but he was shooting 45% over the past 2 years and 36% in EuroLeague. So I get that when the competition is different, probably the type of shots that he gets are kind of different. But if you're looking as him playing in an off-ball role or just not the primary offensive role in OKC, he will have a ton of open shots. And for his entire career, he showed that he's really able to make them at a high clip. And then there is all the other stuff. I mean, if I tell you today that Micic is a slightly better version of Josh Ingles, like this would be an amazing. Yeah, sorry. It's an amazing deal for OKC. And I think that Micic has the potential to be way better than him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's a big guard that can play probably across three positions with the way that the Thunder want to play. Like you could envision him, and especially when we're talking about playing him with Giddey, who is just giant. I think that this opens up a lot for them. And he's also just highly competitive, which I think will help the Thunder a lot. Is like you're adding 2 highly competitive guards coming off your bench. When you think about the starting lineup, which I still would project, it'll be Shea, Dort, Giddey, J-Dub, Chet. And then you think about who's coming off the bench now. It's Micic, it's Kason, it's Kenrich. It's J. Will.
Yeah.
That's a highly competitive bench coming off the bench. That is not, it's not good. They're not going to take a ton off the table, too. Jang is going to get time, certainly. I think Poku will get some time. But we're talking about like steadying forces off the bench that didn't truly exist last year, where it was like, okay, we got to try Trey. I didn't even mention Isaiah Joe, who can come in and shoot as well. And then we're talking about Bertans at times will come in and have his minutes here and there to shoot. Certainly less than probably 70% of his games will be played. The Thunder are suddenly really deep with highly skilled, high basketball IQ players. It's going to be really fun to watch what they can do, adding just one more player. I think it was going to be fun regardless. But whenever you can bring Micic in, if he turns out to be a really good player and sticks around and plays in OKC, he'll like instantly be one of like the best like free agents to come over. And I know they had his draft rights and all that, but truly, he would not come to just any situation to play. It would have, if this situation looked more like Houston or looked more like Detroit
or like OKC 2 seasons ago,
or what OKC looked like 2 seasons ago, or even 2 seasons ago when we thought he was coming over.
Yeah,
it was like no, and then the expectations that he would take on like a pretty big role. And here, like it's not like he'll have a small role here, but in comparison to what the expectations would have been a couple of years ago, it would have been huge. Now he gets to come in, kind of fit in, play a similar role to Kenrich. I'm sure there will be games that he'll close with the Thunder just because of the shooting and the playmaking that he possesses. There'll be a lot of games where he comes in, he's just like the backup point guard for the team. And it allows Kason to like, hey, you come in, you actually get to learn from this guy, former EuroLeague MVP, champion, crazy competitor. You get to learn from him, play alongside him. And he just, it allows Wallace to just more accentuate what happens, more play, just like run around and make sure that he's making an impact in other ways. I think it's an outstanding deal. I think the Thunder should be really proud that he decided to come over. Like it's a big win. Philly, even when they were pretty good, couldn't get him to come over. And some of that may have just been timing and him wanting to accomplish more in Europe overall. But it's a big deal to add a rotation player for $7 million on the market is not easy to do today. I mean, go look at all the contracts that were flying around yesterday. Find me somebody that's as good as him that only made that much. I mean, you're not going to find it. I mean, it's a great value and it's great. It just says a lot of really good things about where the Thunder are headed for sure.
Yeah, probably the one contract that has better value is the one that Vincent signed with the Lakers, but it's LA. So
LA. It's the full mid-level. I mean, he signed the full mid-level, which Micic
it's a bit higher.
Would have been like, a little more than half of what the mid-level, but yeah.
So you can say that Vincent has a little bit more value if he's what we saw in the playoffs. But I mean, there are many other contracts that are balloons, and Micic has a very reasonable deal in the range that we expected, like 7 to 8 millions. It's close to 8 millions,
Yep.
and it creates, as you mentioned, like the fact that OKC is deep. It also creates an incredible training camp. Like it's going to be real who sticks, who plays, and who doesn't. Like it's important that, I mean, everyone recognizes that there are probably 5 to 6 guys that have minutes guaranteed next season. All the others will have to work. I mean, Isaiah Joe will have to work hard for his minutes, because Micic can shoot not as good as him in terms of quickness and relocation and stuff like that, but he's a great shooter. And so is Lou Dort. So is Kayson. Like, they all need to play hard. I'm sure that Dort and Wallace will have their minutes. But, I mean, Micic is a real player. And without, like, pressing any emergency button, OKC improved dramatically, I think, the back end of the roster. But Hansen Oladipo, who knows? I mean, Depot will probably rehab for half a season, if not more. But even him,
I mean, that's a telltale. I mean, we know trying to see Andre Robertson come back from that, and this is not Vic's first injury. I mean, this is hey, take 2 picks, take 2 seconds, and
help the guy,
help him a little bit.
Yeah,
and who knows? I mean, he might be waived. You know,
he might,
or they may
get his money
to be traded. You know, just because that's kind of a valuable spot. You know, about $9 million is pretty valuable. I mean, I would expect to not see Victor Oladipo wearing a Thunder jersey. You know, like that's
no, the injury is severe. But yeah, I mean, there is an interesting comment on the chat. Meek Leak, is this just a sign and trade with a 30-day stand down?
No, it's not. I can confidently say that it's not. That the expectation is that Micic is going to play and that he's going to fit into what they do, and that he's going to fill a role similar to Muscala, similar to Kenrich. Like the Thunder, and also if people want to say, well, this is the Thunder pushing the button, like the Thunder have always had guys like this on the roster. They've never not had like veterans off the bench to come in and help and accentuate and push the team more toward how they are supposed to play. So I wouldn't call this pushing the button. I would say it was very opportunistic for the Thunder to bring him in. It was inexpensive, and it was an opportunity to take an asset that had been Charlie Brown in the football for years, where it was not only for this franchise, but for Philly as well. He continued to just kind of play the NBA a little bit so that he could get leverage in Europe. And that's fine. But now that he's actually coming over, it's a huge deal for the Thunder. It's a big time win for the franchise and for the team. And he's going to help. Like, he'll help next year. He'll help with whatever young guys that need it. Great. There may be times where, a lot of times they'll sit SGA down, early, and then they bring in somebody off the bench. You bring in Micic to play alongside Giddey and J-Dub and Chet and whoever else. Boy, like, it just gives you options to continue and this is what it is all about to me, is the Thunder are going to play a specific style.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to fit within that style. And Micic fits it to a T. And that's why I'd always kind of hoped that he would come over. I had my doubts about it, just because I didn't know if he'd be willing to take on this kind of role, that he'd be willing to take less minutes, that he'd be willing to come off the bench. But he is, obviously. He wouldn't have signed this deal if he wasn't. And he's going to come over and he's going to play. And I think it's going to be a blast, because he plays a brand of basketball that's really exciting. And the Western Conference is competitive. Like, let's just be clear. It's going to be uber competitive next year in the West. And to add just another competent rotation player is a big deal for them. And so it helps propel the Thunder forward, and it helps accentuate what they want to do. It's a huge win. And OKC, if this were like on the free agent market, wouldn't be able to get a player like this. Jake Fisher, Brett Bluma's in the chat says that Jake Fisher reported that Utah was interested in Micic at the draft. Yeah, I'd actually heard similar things. Never heard that they were close on any deal, that Utah was close to getting him, but I think like the idea of moving to 9 would have been a piece of that, but I'm not so sure that Utah was even willing to do that. I don't believe that there were discussions around that. So yeah, I mean, if you're the Thunder, you probably can't get a ton back in return. He's worth more to you as a player than he is as an asset,
Yeah.
And perhaps he shows that he's actually worth a little bit more, and he outgrows the role, and he's like, great, I love the NBA. Maybe he's like, not that he's going to be as good as Luka. He won't be as good as Luka, but in the same way that Luka said, like, the NBA is so much easier than the EuroLeague.
And it's about what I was saying initially about his 3-point shot. If you remember when we scouted Şengün in the Turkish league, there was so much space because the defense was not very tough. And Micic played a good chunk of his minutes there, and the numbers are completely different from there to the EuroLeague. I'm not saying that Micic will find it super duper easy to play in the NBA, but when you can shoot, can pass, and have that size, I mean, I think that he will fit very well, especially against second units. Like Micic can be really valuable when you have to play, Indiana second unit, and you have a player that is probably at the same talent level of a starting point guard, and he's going for your throat. Like Micic is a true competitor every single day, every single night, in every competition, and so I just want to see this like the training camp and see who makes the cut, because OKC will have to probably announce to 2 players, and this will be the case for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Every year, 2-3 players will be left behind. Poku is in the bubble. Jerry is in the bubble. Trey Mann is in the bubble this year. We have probably these 3 players. They can still move away. A guy like Aaron Wiggins, as I mentioned yesterday, his role seems very clogged right now. The position where he plays, so they can get a second rounder maybe for him.
If somebody's willing to give you like a lottery protected first for Isaiah Joe, which I don't suspect that would be his value, but if somebody would, then let's go.
Is it weird for me to say that I would rather keep Isaiah Joe than Wiggins? I don't think that is a bold statement. Like,
not necessarily, just because we've seen how it works, and Joe is just clearly just a better shooter.
Yeah. So I'm not hating on Aaron Wiggins. I just say that there are like multiple players now with similar traits that will probably command more minutes, and you can sneakily have an asset out of that. Whereas with J-Rob and with Trey Mann, I don't believe that you are really getting a real asset. You may get a top 55 protected second rounder for Jerry, and maybe a second rounder with somewhat protection there for a Trey Mann if you can get it.
Yeah. I mean, this might be one of the better shooting Thunder teams as far as role players go ever, when it comes to Isaiah Joe and Micic and
Bertrand and Chet, those guys,
Chet, they can shoot it. They can shoot it. I mean, Wiggins shot 39% from 3 last year. Kenrich shot 37% from 3. There's a lot there. If I'm to guess who goes, I mean, I think Trey Mann is definitely somebody that's going to be on the chopping block, just because they have a lot of guards.
Yeah.
And he doesn't necessarily fit the same mold as all the other guards do with regards to how they play and how they fit in and what they do for the offense. He's going to have a really good summer to stick around. I don't think it's over for him necessarily. He's going to get a shot. And we can't also get trapped by hey, we don't have enough roster spots. We got to figure out, what are we going to do? How are we going to settle this? They'll settle it. And they don't have to settle it until October. Yeah. So if they just hold these players for the next several weeks, don't be surprised, because even the Thunder at this point may not know what they want to do yet with regards to these guys. You know, if Trey made a big leap and comes back into camp and looks amazing, you want to cut him now? You want to trade him now?
This
He
is
may be better than
absolutely
Isaiah Joe in camp, and it's like, oh wow,
Exactly.
okay, we'll keep him. We can get a nice, unprotected second round pick from somebody for Joe, and we'll call it a day. I mean, that could be what happens. We don't know, and I can't sit here and act like I know. But I do know that Micic complicates it for those guys because he's going to take minutes over them. Yeah. And so now it just becomes what do they look like in camp would be my guess. They can make a deal today. Who knows? But my guess is that they'll carry more players than they're allowed to for the regular season now. They're allowed to carry up to 20 through the offseason. And I don't think that there's going to be care or concern about that. There wasn't that care or concern. I mean, I saw Teo Maladon in a Thunder jersey on media day walking through the halls. Saw Derek Favors in a Thunder jersey on media day.
Yeah.
So let's not act like something needs to happen quick. It doesn't, and there's a chance that it won't until then. So,
hey, training camp is important to make these decisions. I'm sure that they have an idea, and I'm sure that if the right offers come into place, like for example, if tomorrow someone calls and say, "Okay, I'll give you a top 20 protected first before Isaiah Joe. I don't want you to wait. I want him for training camps." Well, maybe we'll think about it. But if this is not the case, and you get very mild offers that you might get after training camp, then just make them compete. Use the preseason as real time for making extra evaluations. I'm not sure how much Shea will play in preseason or guys like that. Yeah. But maybe for guys like Trey Mann, to consolidate Micic's roles and stuff like that, that time will be important.
I don't think a player like Micic should play in summer league. I could be wrong about that.
No, I was saying preseason.
Well, I'm sorry. I was not responding to you. I was responding to the chat. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No worries.
Noah Rice in the chat. I don't think so. He doesn't strike me as the kind of player that would play in summer league.
That would be really weird, unless he wants to go to Vegas and just have a time of his life.
He may just be so pumped to wear a Thunder jersey that he just has got to put one on ASAP.
Yeah, okay, let me play one.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know about summer league. I would be very surprised if he did. But this is a really good day to be a Thunder fan. This is a big deal to add part of what could be a really strong 9-man rotation heading into next season. The Thunder are going to be really competitive, and adding a super competitive player that can shoot to this roster, that is malleable, that can play the way they want to play, that can further push the team toward this way, is extremely valuable. So Thunder fans should be very excited about this addition. And, the Thunder organization itself should be very proud that he agreed to join, because it says a lot about where the team is today. It says a lot about how the organization has handled themselves, that somebody that has the stature of Micic that says, hey, you know what? I want to be a part of that, and I'm willing to be a part of that, and I'm willing to be the 8th or 9th guy on this team that's on its way up in the Western Conference.
I still don't believe that, but
I still can't believe it either. But he clearly has agreed.
No, I'm sure that this is not in Micic's mind. I mean, I think that those discussions were had, and
what do you think? Yeah, does he think he's the 4th best guy on the team? What does he think? The 2nd best guy on the team?
No, but I think he views himself as a player that is worth of a starting unit job in the NBA. I'm sure.
Just Watermelon in the chat. For the layman, what's a good comp for Micic?
I said Josh Ingles.
Joe Ingles.
I don't know why I went with Josh.
Yeah, like a 6'6" Joe Ingles that is more of a primary ball handler than what Joe was as like a tertiary guy.
Yeah, but in Europe, Ingles was like a wing with playmaking abilities, and
Yeah.
probably Micic has more playmaking and more shooting, whereas Ingles has more defense. And but they are both creative, and so I think that's a role that you can play on a winning team. Like Ingles was a starter on winning teams, and I think that Micic has a better European career than what Ingles had at the time. And in general, I think that it's not stupid to say that Micic is the better player between the two. So why are we relegating him? It depends on his defense. Like if he's good defensively, then I think that a lot of people
that will be a question. That will be a question mark for sure.
Yeah.
What he looks like as a defender, and that's probably why he's a bench player, which is okay.
Yeah. The defense is not at Ingles level.
Yeah,
or at least it wasn't in Europe. We have to see it because there are moments in the national with the national teams where it was like all over the place. We'll see. That is the calling card. If he can defend reasonably well, then there will be times where we kind of push for him to be in the starting unit because of everything else. And again, he's tall. Like if you have him on your starting unit, there is nobody below 6'6", which is insane.
You could see a world where they close with those guys, where it's like Shea, Micic, Giddey, J-Dub, Chet. And it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, everyone can attack. Everyone can shoot, pass, and dribble. And you have like anybody can play pick and roll with anybody, which is like a dream coming true. And there will be times where you need a guy like Ludor being there most of the time. Because you really need his defense. Yeah. I don't think that Micic will be the same level of defender that Luke can be. So in that regard, I'm not saying that of course, Micic can come in and just be as good as a defender. No, but we will wonder what to choose between Dort's defense and Micic, everything else. And this will also be like why I think this is great for OKC. It's because everyone will feel more pressure, and and I really hope that this turns into an environment where yes, there is pressure, but everyone improves. And if everyone improves, like this will be a team that it's not an easy out because they really have 8-9 guys that are legitimately good NBA players. Which on most nights and on playoff nights, this is what matters.
Yeah. It's very exciting. Thanks so much for joining us for this emergency pod. It's going to be a very interesting season. This is way more than I would have expected. They gained 2 second-round picks and Micic within the first day of free agency. That's pretty good. It's one of the better free agency days for OKC ever. So thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you guys again on Monday.